smile. This is cool.
All right, welcome everyone to Husbandhood. Good evening. We're so excited to have you guys here. I'm happy to be here with Daryl. Looking forward to bringing in other brothers. But it's the very first episode of Husbandhood. Let's go ahead and kick it off. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Todd. So I guess we go ahead and just get into it, huh? Like you said.
Let's do it.
What Todd, out of curiosity, what was your first thing you thought about when you heard husbandhood?
Oh man. Well, first of all, it really kind of hit me because like I truly believe that the two most important roles that men have in this life is the role of husband and the role of father. So,
Hmm.
I was like the blending of those two roles, being a husband,
Yeah.
fatherhood, just, as being a new father has been an amazing ride. So that was the thing that for me, and just the idea of having a resource that poured into men in leading them towards those two areas, but also ways we can encourage each other who maybe aren't in those roles. Like
Hmm.
I don't think at all that it's limited to just husbands and
Hmm.
fathers, or both those melded. I think what we envision is we want this to be something where men feel encouraged and build up into. But what about you? Like when you kind of had this vision, what kind of popped in your head?
It's interesting. I looked at a lot of different podcasts about men telling women what to do and women telling men what to do and so on and so on. And in my mind, I felt like being a husband, like you said, a father as well. What avenues do we have to where we have a community where we're actually growing and becoming better at being husbands, and it just dawned on me one day. Like I was looking at something, I saw a bunch of like neighborhoods and all this other stuff, and I was probably watching some TV show, and I saw Brotherhood, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, we husbands don't really kind of have that thing, where I mean, we all kind of crack those jokes, the husband
Right.
jokes, happy wife, happy life, all these things. We all got those things down, but we don't never really bond together where we're actually trying to sharpen each other. And I was like, man, husbandhood sounds like a really good idea. And bringing it to my friends and stuff like that, I just like, wow, nothing's better than watching all of us succeed. Makes me feel good when you're a good husband. And
Yeah.
so I just want everyone out there to be great husbands. So yeah, that's pretty much what I thought about.
So in that regard, like when we think about all of these different resources, I mean, why do you think there's this lack of uh, encouraging positive resources out there for men? Like you said, there's things out there to teach you how to go out and get women. There's
Hmm.
things out there that teach you how to work out and better yourself physically. But
Hmm.
from just a positive, uplifting perspective, why do you think there's such a lack of content out there for men in particular?
And that's a really good question. I feel like with men, we're kind of more lone wolf. A
Mm,
lot of us are really big in the, I can fix it, or I understand it, or I can, I'll figure it out. And when it comes down to it, we all need help. We really do. I notice a lot of my friends, they all handle being a husband differently, and I feel like I feel like it's out there, but it's not on platforms for men to receive it in the way that we like to receive stuff.
yeah.
Some of us can sit down and read books all day long. Some of us can watch, the self help videos and stuff like that. But again, that's still kind of more or less you're reading into something. But how do you familiarize yourself with other men? Unless you're going out to those conferences or you're going out to those meetings and greets with those men. But sometimes, you're listening to a podcast and someone's telling you exactly what you've been through, and you're like, oh, wait, he knows exactly what I'm going through. And you kind of develop that relationship in this learning curve, because you're like, hey, I've been through this, and this is how I navigate through it. And I feel like that's going to help this whole being a husband thing, kind of out or whatnot. Um, but I'm actually curious to see your outtake of it, because I think you've been married about a year now, 2 years.
So going approaching 2 years now. It's
Okay.
crazy to think, 2020 in
Yeah.
some ways felt like, you know, 50 years in one year. In other ways, it feels like it just flew by. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm relatively new in this this journey of marriage. So it's kind of interesting, I'm kind of the elder statesman
Yeah.
in this our group of friends because I'm one of the older ones. But I'm a young buck. I'm a
Yeah.
neophyte when it comes to married life. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I think because of how important marriage is and how just vital the family is.
Hmm.
We are going through this, unless those of us who've had like great fathers
Hmm.
and who have great mentors. A lot of us are just kind of going through this almost blind, deaf, and dumb,
Hmm. Yeah.
and so to have opportunities to come around other men, to have other men come around you, to have something that you can go to and be like, oh man, I can't wait to. I love the idea of that people can, hopefully look to us. Not that we're perfect, not that we're
Hmm.
like the epitome of
Yeah.
manhood or anything like
Yeah.
that. But it's just like, okay, I know that when I listen to Husbandhood, I'm going to listen to some real men
Hmm.
who are trying to live in a godly way,
Yeah.
in a way that is, supportive of every aspect of their lives,
Hmm.
and be encouraged, not be
Yeah.
told that there's something wrong with masculinity,
Hmm.
or if you're struggling, like if your wife makes more than you, like we're going to talk about a whole
Yeah.
host of,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't want to
I'm
spoil
about to
things,
say, I'm
but
about
we're
to
just,
say,
like we really, when we talk through this, the idea that we want to just touch on so many aspects
hmm,
of things that men go through and struggle with.
yeah.
And that's the other thing too, like so many times we are struggling with things, and we, like you said, we are
Hmm.
sometimes have that lone wolf mentality, that
Hmm.
silo mentality, and you
Yeah.
don't deal well with problems in a silo. You
Yeah.
need to have people who are going to walk alongside you, come alongside you, give you that tough love,
Hmm.
call you out,
Yeah.
but also do it in a way that is, encouraging and uplifting. So
Yeah.
that's definitely my hope and prayer for what we're looking to do with this.
Yeah. I like that, Mr. Todd. Mr. Todd.
But as a follow on, I so what, and when we were talking about is why do we think now is the right time for something like this, for this podcast?
So, I mean, starting off, I mean, COVID had from, I mean, I don't know obviously the numbers statistically speaking, but I know a lot of relationships were not devastated, but a lot of relationships were impacted by COVID, with being at home with, your wife and stuff like that. And everyone's like, oh, I don't know this person, or even just the fact of spending more time with family, or the men having to actually be at home more. I felt like it was interesting just hearing some of the stories where it was like, I can't stand my wife, or I can't stand my husband, or this is
Mm,
it, or, the divorce statistic going up. And in my head, I'm like, you don't you don't get married to get divorced. It's not
yeah,
something people look forward to. And so hearing that was like really, really saddening, honestly. I have been divorced, unfortunately, and we'll talk about all that other stuff later. But I am recently married, and being at home with my wife, although there is those challenges, I mean, it's lovely, and you got to learn how to navigate through this. So I feel like this was a great time. Matter of fact, it probably would have been a great time during COVID to come out with it, but you
yeah.
know, we won't say who was dragging feet. Just kidding.
I mean,
I just messed with.
we all had some claws on our feet,
Yeah.
dragging.
But yeah, I just really feel like it's a great time because everyone's hungry.
Yeah.
Everyone's hungry to find out. Now is the time because everyone's like, okay, how do I become better? How do I improve myself? And everyone's looking for those resources. And I feel like now we can get out there, hit the ground running, and really get this information out to other men out there, so that the ones that are married will know what to look forward to, and kind of how to navigate. And the ones that are looking to get married understand, the not necessarily challenges, but the benefits and the growth they can get from being a husband. So yeah, I feel like it's a great time, for this to come out and, you know be a resource for a lot of men. I know I know that COVID really, really changed a lot of people's perspective on just marriages in general.
Mm.
And so I'm just curious to see how this will impact men out there and how they will even benefit. And I look forward to people responding, letting us know how, they have been able to deal with certain things. So, um,
So to kind of add my perspective on that, I am in agreement with you, but also for me personally, I've I've been involved or watching things happen as far as like socially,
mhm,
in the YouTube space, social media, in the media scape in general. And I just started to see this shift. We went through the movement of feminism where it was like,
mm,
hey, women,
okay.
we feel like women felt like they weren't treated respectfully, treated equally, and so
Hmm.
there's this push for equality. But I feel like over the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years, the shift has more so been towards just really denigrating men,
Mm,
negative outlooks on men,
mhm,
and even going into looking at the race of people and kind of like separating them and stuff like that. And,
mhm,
and I saw this happening, and it really it wounded me because I feel like just as much there's a beauty in women and femininity, there's a beauty in men and masculinity.
mhm.
Certainly there are aspects of people where they can do things that are not great,
Yeah.
and we should call that out and criticize that. But to somehow see men as some ill uh, actors in the world, or just
Mhm,
of very little or no benefit. Some
mhm.
people seem to show no respect of what men contribute,
Yeah.
whether that be in the world in general or in their homes or whatnot. And so for me, the reason why I feel like now is a great time for that is because you look around, you can bump into probably 20 resources just walking down the street in ways that women are being built up,
Mhm,
encouraged, body positivity and all these things. And, not trying to knock any of that. But when
mhm.
you look around and you see what is there for men, there's very little. And even sometimes it's almost looked down upon for there to be things for men.
Yeah.
There's this idea of like, well, it's just, society or the world has always been for men. So it's time for y'all to take a back seat. And I don't know about you, but I've only lived 40 something odd years on this. I haven't been around for 200, three
Yeah.
hundred years. So I couldn't really care less about what men in the past have experienced. Uh, unless it has a bearing on me, or like just
Yeah.
the general thing. So just because someone has done something who shares similar characteristics to me in no way means that somehow I shouldn't have a voice, or shouldn't
Yeah.
you know um, be respected.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my main thing is I want men to know that it is okay to be a man. It is
Mhm.
okay to be masculine. It's okay to also love things that maybe aren't traditionally seen as masculine. There's no exact formula
Yeah.
out there for what it means to be a man, what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a father. But there are certainly standards that we're all called to. Like you said,
Okay.
I believe that husbands should, have one wife. I believe
Yeah.
they should go into marriage with the idea that this is something that they are doing for the long haul. I
Yeah.
think as a father, they should take care of it, you know? So, and
Yeah.
we'll get into all of those responsibilities of what that
Yeah.
looks like, because I think I also want to explore and recapture some of those things that maybe have gotten lost as far as
Mhm.
what is important for we as men to do in those roles as well.
Yeah. Okay, okay. So it looked like I got you on a roll, so I got you on this next one then. So then what do you feel the vision of husbandhood looks like for the future, far as the community go? And then on top of that, do you think this podcast is only just for Christians?
Oh, no, not at, well. First and foremost, my vision. I mean, I see this as a community. I
Hmm.
want to engage with the men out there. I want to engage with the women out there too. Like,
Hmm.
even though we're calling this husbandhood, and we're certainly targeting men, and that's men of every walk of life. That's
Yeah.
single men. That's married men. That's men with children. That's divorced men. That's,
Hmm.
whatever. We're
Hmm.
certainly not trying to limit ourselves uh, in that the outreach that we hope to provide. So
Yeah.
I see this as a community where we are just there to support one another, encourage one another, but also provide resources. Although no, this podcast is not solely for Christians. I don't want to at all. Um, Try to hide the fact that we are going to be coming at this from a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
We're going to be
Hmm.
sharing, scriptures. We're going to
Hmm.
speak about God. We're going to speak about Jesus. We're going to be open about that.
Hmm.
But I, I believe that there's value um, for those who maybe don't profess to be Christian, because
Hmm.
regardless of the worldview, there are
Hmm.
still, responsibilities. There's still things out there that we as men can do to support one another. And I'm going to be frank with you. At some point, I want to be sharing the gospel with these folks. So
Yeah.
if you haven't heard, you're gonna hear. But also, don't let that be a barrier, because
Yeah.
there's my hope is we will provide content that you
Hmm.
find beneficial, even if you don't necessarily agree with our worldview.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I agree. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. Yeah, I mean we know the vision for this podcast, or just husbandhood in general, because we're expecting this to just be everything people are looking for as far as men. We do want, like you said, the women, the men, even upcoming, husbands to be a part of this podcast, and to even hunger for the stuff that we have. Like you said. This will be, we're Christians, so we're going to be putting in, like you said, those scriptures. We're going to definitely tell you how God has moved in our life.
Yeah,
Me personally being in a relationship before without Christ being the center, and now being in a relationship with Christ at the center. And so I don't want people to be afraid. I mean, Christ is not someone we should fear, in the sense of he welcomes everybody. So, we definitely want people to listen. We just like, give us your ear. That's all we need. Give us your
yeah.
ear. Give us your eye. Give us 5 minutes, and I guarantee you'll hear something. And you'll be like, "Huh, I never thought of that." Especially with Ty here on the mic now. And
Well,
so,
man, we both have wisdom to share,
yeah.
and that's the other thing too, is kind of just reiterating on that. I don't just listen to believers,
Hmm.
and I don't just have friends who are believers.
Yeah.
That isn't
Facts.
um, that's not beneficial to
Yeah.
us to just live in these little bubbles where it's like I
Hmm.
only hang out with the people who agree with me. I only talk to the people who agree with
Hmm.
me. No, I think there's value, and we're not even going to agree on this
Yeah.
podcast. We're not going to bring on people who are just going to be,
Yeah.
mouthpieces to just say the things that Daryl and Todd would say.
Yeah.
We're going to bring people on that maybe have different perspectives, or maybe they hear a podcast and they're like, you know what, I want to come on. I want to talk about some of the things you said because I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
I also don't want us to be where we shy away from conflict. That's
Yeah.
something that I believe men uh, we should be willing to go into the fray.
Yeah.
We think about some of the men that maybe we respect, and a lot of those
Hmm.
people that we respect, they were not wallflowers. You know, they
Yeah.
didn't just sit back. They caused a ruckus. They made a stir,
Yeah.
and maybe caused some issues along the way. They
Yeah.
weren't perfect. You know, the only
Mhm.
person perfect that we both follow is Jesus Christ, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
even the people that uh, I revere and I look to and want to emulate, and in certain areas, I want to have a proper perspective of who those men are,
Yeah.
and they're human beings who,
Yeah.
you know, are sinful. They have things probably going on in their lives that they're still working through, and so that's the other side of it too. Is I do, you know, we want to have that healthy balance of us being vulnerable and
Yeah.
transparent with you, but also we're all married, or at least those of us who are on this
Yeah.
podcast right now, we're married. So, you know, we're not just going to be sharing everything. You know, you're not going to, I'm not
That's
going to be, this is not going to be a place where I go to vent, you
yeah.
know. My
Yeah.
wife is still my best friend.
Mhm.
She's still going to be the primary person that I go to
Mhm.
work through my problems. But I also don't ever want people to think that we're getting on here and pretending to be like
Yeah.
these bastions of perfection, because
Yes. Yes.
I think even in this first episode, you know, we've had some fumbles and stumbles. So, you know, we're
Yeah.
going to we're again. I'm just really excited because I just love the idea that we get to be some voices out there that are looking to just build up men, uplift them, and
Yeah.
also to say, you know, great things about women as well, because
Mhm.
again, we're all married here, or we're
Yeah.
both married here. We love women. We think they're amazing. We
Mhm.
think, you know,
Yeah.
God created both men and women, you
Mhm.
know. So there's beauty in how we complement each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and ultimately, like you said, we are married, so you know we want husbands out there to be impressing their wives out there. We want them to be. We want the wives to see what us husband want to be. You know,
yeah,
we want to be better versions of ourselves every day. You know, I don't know any man who wants a horrible version of themselves. Like
right.
I mean, and so that's the cool part, and I think that's what you're even saying. This all together is that you know we ain't perfect. I mean, we not. That's why we're doing this. You know, I know I'm not. You know,
Yeah,
and so I really one of the things that you probably hear a lot of is the iron sharpening iron. I like that analogy because it is you don't sharpen iron smooth, or it's not like not smooth. I'm sorry, it's not like easy. You know, it's stone against metal, and it's grinding, sometimes it's loud, and sometimes there's sparks flying.
mhm, yeah,
Not saying that there's gonna be some HBO boxing matches, but no, I'm just saying like there are gonna be some topics that are gonna be hard to get through. There are gonna be some moments that are going to be a little bit difficult. There are going to be some moments where we're going to disagree, and that's what I love about this podcast, and that's what I'm looking forward to in the future is that we really are going to get in there with the nitty gritty and ask the questions and not shy away from it and be able to be an extra avenue for people to go through to see, hey, you know what, I'm dealing with the same thing, or wow, this I never thought about dealing with it like that. We are, me and Todd are different walks of our lives, and so this is awesome, just being able to even share the platform with you, Todd. So this is going to be a great adventure. So
no, I mean, I'm looking forward to, uh, like you said, I feel honored as well because I love your enthusiasm. I love just how you have just I can see the spirit of God like in your life and stuff like
yeah,
that. But also too, I'm also excited to engage with uh, those who are going to be a part of this community
oh
and
yeah,
who are going to walk this journey with us. I truly hope that the things that we say people find value in, and that they want
hmm
to, you know, listen as often as we put out episodes and
hmm
want to engage with us. Like, you know, I look forward to being able to, you know, answer questions or say
yeah,
hi to people. Like I just, you know, going back to that question about vision, I really do envision just having people where it's like, oh, this is such and such from Chicago, or
Yeah.
so and so from New Zealand is like
Yeah. Oh,
listening in. When we are able to do live, calls or live
yeah.
shows and stuff like that, I would love to just engage with people, because I don't ever want this to be where it just feels like you and I are just
Yeah.
talking to the ether. Like, I
Yeah.
want to interact with people. I want to be able to pray for people,
Yeah.
encourage people if people are going through a tough time. You know, show walk with them through that, or be an
Hmm.
encouragement to them. So that there's it's almost hard to condense that answer into just a
I know,
simple
right?
little blur, because there's just so many things in my head of what I feel like this could be. But most of all, I just want this to be a place where where God is honored, where
Hmm.
people feel loved and respected, and we are just truly building up young men, middle-aged men, older
Hmm.
men. I want this to be where so many people find value in it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I I think that pretty much wraps up everything. Um, yeah, we look forward to these next episode, guys. You know, tune in. It's definitely gonna get a little juicier. We let's just say we sliced the lemon right now, and so now we're about to squeeze. So here
yeah,
we go.
get ready for the ride, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen. We certainly want to just dive into some fun subjects, but also some
yeah,
hard subjects to talk about. And that's when, like you said, the iron sharpening iron. That's where you're gonna see it come to fruition. But Daryl, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm glad we
yeah,
got to
yeah,
get to
yeah,
chatting.
yeah. So look forward to you for the next episode. Hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, then. So